And you would have heard many of these things. And again, the reason they're on this slide and what we're trying to focus on is because we've heard it from each one of you. And we've been working with some phenomenal organizations, the partners that presented, a lot of the case panelists who are here, who are experts in the space, the donors who've been supporting programs, who kind of provided perspectives, the NGOs, and then the community. So we've learned from that the need and found this to be a place that we as IIT can try and contribute towards delivering confidently. It's a very key part that we've always talked about at scale with measurement. I mean, we just even heard Niyati talk about the whole focus on measurement that contribute, and we've tied it up with the SDG goals. So let me quickly just walk through who we are. So that's what IIT is. We were set up 5 years ago. We're a not-for-profit foundation. We have both the presence here and the US. These are the IITians. It's about 123 IITians who were the original group of IITians who kind of really believed that we could come up with something that could add value to the sector to do what we're trying to do today. And these solutions, water and farm, as we've mapped from the perspectives that have been presented in the last 2 days, they can contribute to 10 of these 17 SDG goals, right? And I think, whether it's no poverty, the kind of communities you're working with, good health and well-being, clean water and sanitation, decent work and economic growth, reduced inequalities, sustainable communities, responsible production, climate action, life on land, and partnerships. And at scale, I mean, that's what we've been seeing with some of these cases in terms of what this means. And as we've kind of developed, and we are calling it a technology, but it's beyond an app or something, it's a lot of the parts of the solution. We're starting to see a lot of uptick with different partners who've been using this. And this is just a snapshot of where we are, where the blacks are where both the technology and we're also involved with them on process. And then the grays are where people have used the technology and work that they're doing. And so we're very encouraged by our ability to be partners in that space. So what does that mean and how are we thinking about it? So these are the 5 cases that were presented, and I've given it my format. Rejuvenation of water bodies was the kind of broad construct around that. Happen in districts, happens everywhere. Then there was a 25 kilometers rejuvenation of water bodies plus. In Asian Paints case, they said watermark. Somebody else might do something else, but there's a foundation there, but they want to do a lot more, and corporates can do that because they're long-term committed to places. And I call that the 25 kilometers story, because you're there forever. This is your community that you're embedded in. Then the sugarcane, it's the river basin solution, but I've called it the sugarcane one because it's around high consumption crops, right? And again, solutions along river basins, which are very critical. We've heard also about mint, and there are others like that. Then you have the story with farmer producer organizations, starts with sustainability or starts with the farmers working together and doing something a little bit more effectively, coming together. And in this case, again, what we've seen is addition of RWB being overlaid and integrated there. And then, of course, the market connect, which I think is extremely exciting. And it's not just groundnut, as we've heard from Vimuri. There are so many products in the portfolio. You can go up the value chain. There's so much possibilities there as well. And there's so many markets that you can open up for the farmers, right? And then, of course, there are 2 others that were not kind of talked about in detail, and we put them because we've not fully curated them, but they make a big difference to the story. The whole water phytoremediation or natural filtration that Ravi Mariwala is talking about, we're going to do a pilot with Asian Paints in 2 of their plants. And then, I don't know how many of you all met Manu, who's here, but his Jaltara story, which is farmer recharge pits, which more valuable than even the groundwater recharge. It's something that Satya, you talked about, the flooding side that or Midula talked about also yesterday. They are preventing flood issues. When there's heavy excess rain, the water goes away. It's like when you have a bath, you need a drain for the water to quickly go out so you don't flood. And they're seeing loss of crops being completely reduced because they're preventing flooding from taking place with climate change. And we've talked about several of these things, but we've picked up 2 fundamentals that all of these solutions represent. There are 2 fundamentals that are the building blocks that have excited us that are common to all of these. And you guys have talked about some of them. So if I have to ask the room, what's the first one? What has kind of struck you from all these conversations that could be that first fundamental? Any guesses? Community. The first fundamental we've picked up is these are all community. And there are three facets we picked up. Community are the owners. Whether they get there to start with or not, you treat them as the owners and they are the owners. That's what is fundamental about all these solutions. The second is you collectivize them. You collectivize them as owners. They're not individual owners. You bring them together. And the third is they are self-incentivized. You are not subsidizing their engagement. The solutions incentivize their participation. All these solutions are designed for community to want to own collectively because they get direct incentive. And this is fundamental to these solutions. We've not created them. These partners who've designed them, that's what they represent. And that's why they're the most powerful solutions that can be relevant. And so that's the first structure. What's the second one? So the second one is sustainability. So the fundamentals of these solutions is firstly, they're water and farm. All of them are water and farm, which is 99 or 95% of rural India in terms of whatever metric you look at. Water is critical and farming, whether it's is the two pieces, and they are not one. They are both. They've not said, I'll do one and then they are all water and farm. They may have started with water, moved to farm. They may have started with farm, but they are fundamentally from the get-go, water and farm. Second, they are fundamentally supply and demand. They may not do great things on both, but silt is demand. We've seen water consumption go down. We've seen fertilizer consumption go down. We've seen water conservation go up. It is a demand solution. It is not purely a supply solution. So they are all supply and demand. And thirdly, they are maintainable. The biggest issue is lack of ability for solutions assets to be maintained. These solutions are maintainable by that community itself. And for us, that is critical. If you don't invest in things that can be maintained over time, then that asset has a shelf life. And so these are the other three principles that are emulated in all these solutions. And so these two aspects are what excite us fundamentally about these solutions. So if you bring that together, because of these two things, they are national solutions. They can go anywhere in the country. And the relevance in some of these cases, like even so if you break it down, where these solutions have value is also important. You want to impact at scale. Water bodies, as a matter of fact, our technology has kind of even pushed the envelope further. So we've identified 5 lakh water bodies across the country that can be addressed. Of course, we've taken it as 1 acre plus, right? So the government had half an hectare, which is 1.5 acres, but we've got 1 acre plus, and we know exactly where these are and how they're performing anywhere in the country. And each of these solutions, and that's what we started to showcase, have got an ability and applicability that these partners represent. So this is Caring Friends and Associates have experience in 73 districts of the country, right? And our technology can go and enable it anywhere in any district of the country. So there's a national relevance that's present for this solution that's applicable anywhere in the country. There's a national relevance for the 25 kilometer plus. These are the plants, these are operating plants, and we've only mapped 25 companies here. It covers 4 trillion liters and a couple of million hectares of farmland, right? And it's one solution. When I say it's about corporate saying, I will do RWB plus. What I want to do, Asian Paints said watermark, somebody wants to do something else. They can all do it and they can commit to it around their plant. Sugarcane river basins, we heard from Vijay. So these are, river basins are critical, that connectivity, and these are where sugarcane is grown at scale. And if you address that one solution in these areas at scale, you're going to have significant impact. So this is what gives you speed now. It's these solutions, but taken at that scale, sustainable cotton districts, right? So again, the effort to make cotton sustainable took a while, but this is where it's already sustainable. You integrate it with RWB, you integrate it with this market connects, and now you've got magic happening there. And then the groundnut districts. So all of these have relevance at large scale. And again, we've not picked every district. Each district being mapped there has large relevance for that product. So this is now the first part, is that there is a national story here for each of these solutions. And if you create the map, then others can engage. They can decide, I'm here and I want to do sugarcane or I want to do groundnuts. And it allows something that's possible in those parts of the country to happen. So that's the first value that we've recognized is create the narrative of those national solutions. So we've picked solutions that represent community and represent sustainability. And the first narrative that we've said is let everybody understand where this can happen. And if they want to participate and make it happen, they can be part of that whole story. So it doesn't need conversations, it's out there. And that's what we're going to put out there. Anybody who wants to be part of any of these can now be part of this directly. But how can you be part of it? How do you make it easy? You know what you talked about, Satya, is you have to create methodologies, processes. So that's the second part of it. How does somebody become part of something like this? How do they understand their opportunity? How do they figure out their strategy plan? What's the dashboard if they're getting into it? What's the way to track their operations? What's the outcome measurements? What's the impact measurement? So you've seen this in the last few days. These are things that our partners are using our technology. These are opportunity assessments for a district. We've shown how this district has this opportunity that we talked about, 74,000 acres, which is now kind of improved. This is a district opportunity for Ambuja around their work in cotton. This is a national opportunity for Asian Paints to understand across the entire country, we can affect 7 million people, 25 kilometers around our plant. This is a location opportunity, much more detailed, much more precise for Asian Paints out the box if they want to do this. This is a strategy plan. And the strategy plan moves from the asset class, which is water bodies, to the community. The entire goal is how am I working with communities and setting goals that are linked to your communities, because that's the core. Then a management dashboard, looking at my community strategy and looking at different data. We're just showing you a visual that that's what you need to kind of run something at scale. Management dashboard in another context, which is your cotton management dashboard for CCD between groundnuts and what they're doing in RWP. And then operations tracking, really understanding it with visuals that make sense. What was this? What has changed? Can I really understand what's happened? And then looking at impact. So, Nimesh Bhai showed us this. 26%, goes to 66%. It's tracked with data. It's irrefutable data that shows that. Moving that to the community level. How do I understand how I impacted communities? The river basins can be tracked. And then the surveys, you've seen some of these, and we call these precision surveys. So again, one of the things that we've learned as we work with partners is if you know what you want to measure, it's a one-page survey. It's not 20 pages, it's not 30 pages. If you know what you want to measure, it's a one-page survey. So whether it's a community survey, it's a yield survey, cost survey, then being part of the overall ecosystem. So we look at ourselves as enablers. And so for us, in an Asian Paints construct, we're there with our technology and they're the client and we're kind of working with them to make it happen. And then a little bit of economic modeling, I think important sometimes to kind of really understand what are the dynamics. So bringing three parts together and putting together, what does that mean? So these are the kinds of things of services, and you need that to be in place for anybody to participate. So now bringing that together, you have these phenomenal solutions, foundational in community and sustainability, they're national. If you create services end to end, then you bring the two pieces together. And so that's what we are trying to represent and we want to provide as a service. We call it solutions as a service, right? And so each of these are solutions and each of them can be provided at scale for wherever they're relevant. They're all national solutions. And we want to be part of making that happen. It's about collaborations, partnerships, all the things we put together we didn't understand, but we curated that with our partners. And we brought value to it in terms of bringing these things together. So that's what we want to represent. Measurable impact delivered with confidence. And I just thought I'd leave you all with that thought as to what this room represents and what we want to come in without having the expertise or having the knowledge or being there, but as the observers in the space, being that enabler that brings it together. So I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity of being here with us for these last 2 days. And just let you know that we're excited by the kind of participation, the kinds of questions, the kinds of interest. And yes, if we can do these things at scale, then hopefully like we saw in Anand Bang's video, we can look back and say, you know what, in the 60s, there was an issue and now I can see that I've made a change. 5 years from now, we can look back and say, hey, there was a climate change crisis looming, but we got together and we made the change. We can make the change. And I think that's really what I want to leave with you all today. So thank you very much for being here.